Hello and welcome to this edition of the podcast Impact of AI Explored, where James and I explore AI in all the different ways that are possible in IT. And we have a guest today. Our guest is Jits Langendijk. He's from Nvidia, and I'm from the Netherlands, so I can pronounce that name correctly. So Jits, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, and thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. Although every once in a while, when I speak to foreigners, so to speak, they always have some issues with that name. But then again, it's not really a common name in the Netherlands as well. So basically, I listen to everything that starts with the J. So sorry, James, but no. No, anyways, I'm doing good. As we just said prior to the official recording of this great podcast, I am enjoying one of the global free days at Nvidia, which means that basically everyone at Nvidia, so all my roughly 29,000 colleagues, are enjoying themselves today with whatever they like to do and detach from work and do something they can recharge. So I'm doing the same thing by being a guest in your great podcast. So
That's the first top tip for every company. Do what Nvidia is doing.
Well. Then again, I also think that it's pretty common, right? These well-being days or global free days, or I don't know what to call, but at least in many industries, but certainly in the IT industry, where you can work remotely and work is something you do, another place you go to, and especially we're all coming from a background of end user computing, so that definitely relates to us. But the pressure on individuals can be pretty high, especially if you're working for global organizations where with the different time zones, there's always something going on. And in the end of the day, when you think you're finished up on your inbox, and the next morning you wake up and you see that Northern America has filled it up again. So providing everyone the ability to detach a little bit and recharge, and that's a good thing, right? It helps with productivity, it helps with well-being and a clear mind as well. So yeah, so certainly it is advice for each and every company, but
yeah. Well, not everyone is on that pace right yet. But Jits, thanks for being here. We're going to talk a little bit about Nvidia. You work in Nvidia. What's your role in Nvidia?
So currently I manage two teams, or I manage one team of solution architects across EMEA. But you can easily, you can say you can divide this team into two categories. When I started at Nvidia, I started as a solution architect in the team that was focusing on professional visualization, which also contains the virtualization part, the Nvidia grid technology, the vGPUs we call this today. The role of a solution architect was always to support our sales organization in their engagements with end customers. And I always dumb it down to one single sentence, like it's our job as a solution architect to remove any technical blockers in the sales cycle. And there's much more to it, of course. But the funny part is that, or not the funny part, but the reality is that Nvidia, we don't do any direct business with our customers. And I'm talking about the enterprise portfolio at Nvidia, not necessarily the consumer products, because that's a different channel, of course, a different route to the consumer. But in the enterprise environment or the enterprise portfolio, everything that we sell, everything that we do, and whether that's hardware or software, we do this with a partner ecosystem. And to be honest, a very large ecosystem, because we need to collaborate with these partners in order to be successful. They are usually the interface towards the end customer, and we're talking about a huge set of partners, whether that's an OEM, an ISV, an integrator, local integrator, a global system integrator, you name it. We storage partners. We team up with all of them. So back to that SA team. That SA team contains a group of individuals that is a specialist on a particular NVIDIA technology, like Omniverse, Holoscan for media, vGPU, NVIDIA AI Enterprise. These are all software solutions using our hardware, of course. It's fully optimized in that stack. and they work with end customers supporting our sales colleagues. But next to that, we also have a team of what we call partner solution architects, and they are supporting not necessarily directly the end customer, but that partner ecosystem by providing them constant updates, etc. But also, of course, supporting them on any opportunities that they have. So the team across EMEA contains both types of solution architects, but of course closely working together. Because in the end of the day, the title, your job description, the role doesn't really matter. There's only one thing that we always keep in mind, and that's mission is boss. And if the mission is to support the partner, that's what we do. And we form a virtual team of volunteers around that and just do it. Mm-hmm. And whether it's a customer and it requires the expertise of a partner solution architect, just do it. The mission is the boss. So I manage that team of partner SAs and specialist SAs in EMEA. And that's what I primarily, that's what keeps me busy 25 hours a day. Always short on time.
Yeah. Right. And you've been working at Nvidia a few years. We go way back. Jits and I, we known each other from the Citrix community a few years. You worked at Nvidia a few years. I can imagine the spin-off of the AI, the startup of the AI hype, really changed how Nvidia is looking at the world and how and your jobs and how you look at your customers. Can you tell a little bit about how that is going?
Yeah, massively. Recently I was watching the SIGGRAPH keynotes with our founder and CEO Jensen Huang, where he had also a couple of like interview style sessions. Can remember the name of that lady. I think Laura from Wired. And he explained that whole journey of Nvidia, right? And founded in 93, and it was all about accelerated computing. Initially with getting the best gaming experience out there. And that also reminded me when I watched that and also thought about this podcast. I remember the first time that you and I, Gerjon, were on an event that was actually in near Utrecht in Bunnik. Mm-hmm. Organized also by a community platform. I can't recall the name, to be honest. And you did a presentation. I don't know, it was Citrix versus Microsoft or Citrix versus VMware. I'm not sure, but you had like the presentation was divided in a couple of chapters, and you had that what was that game? Really pixelated
Street Fighter.
game. Yeah, exactly, Street Fighter, where you had round 1, round 2, right, and you compare two platforms next to each other. So. And that very same image is also what we use in our visualizations about where Nvidia started and where we are today, right? So the really pixelated games, maybe a little bit. But anyways, no, it made a huge impact. But not only AI, right? So throughout the years, as I said, we started off with focusing on graphics for games and 3D acceleration, and all of a sudden we found out that there is a enterprise market using those consumer products in the world of like for example the Autodesk suite. Mm-hmm. And we shifted immediately like, hey, these set of customers, they have different demands and expectations towards our hardware and also our software, of course. So we immediately shifted and adapted to that opportunity. And throughout the years, in 2000, 2010, I believe, there was AlexNet, a global competition where it's about image classification, where deep learning is really applied. And immediately NVIDIA shifted like, this is something where the accelerated computing platform that we always have been focusing on really delivers the value. So that was the first steps into what we generalize as artificial intelligence, where you can define deep learning, machine learning, Gen AI these days. So it's constantly influencing those industries or those markets by a lot of research that we do, research papers that are being developed by NVIDIA employees, patents, and this is initially with graphics, and then it went over to deep learning, and now with Gen AI. So it's constantly of course, you need to be on the lookout for new talent. Those PhD students coming out of universities that are wizards in the world of AI. But also, if I look at my own team, for example, and maybe also for myself, coming out of an end user computing world. And of course, the world of artificial intelligence, and especially back in those days in 2016 and onwards, where Nvidia launched the DGX, a purpose-built appliance for deep learning. It's so interesting. It's so fascinating, right? I mean, maybe the same applies to the two of you as well, because you also tapped into this world of AI to just maybe for to educate yourself, or maybe you're just intrigued. But it's especially these days, everyone is talking about it. It's the new wave within in IT. But it also means, back to what I was hinting at, like within my team and myself, coming out of EUC and virtualization and bringing a secure and easy to consume GPU accelerated virtual instance out of a data center, all of a sudden it's not about this virtualized centralized desktop, but all of a sudden it's about AI applications, a complete different workload, of course, right? So it's also for us a constant learning path, which comes with its own hurdles, right? So it's not always easy to make those shifts. We always make fun at Nvidia, if you take off, or you take some PTO for a single day, you can start with a new hire training afterwards, because it's it's development, and the organization develops itself at the speed of light, as we always refer to Sol. So yeah, it comes with a challenge, but on the flip side, it is so cool. Really, I mean, no, it's still right. Sometimes you get goosebumps when Jensen is talking on stage and what is it, explains how the world will look like according to him or to us, all of us. And to be part of that is a humbling experience, but also. I remember when prior to joining Nvidia, in my previous role, I already went to those Nvidia GPU technology conferences, GTC, and I was looking around, and this is a complete different conference, right? We all are used to, again, from you mentioned Citrix, the Citrix synergies, and the Citrix summits, and the VM worlds, or Explore these days, or we also mentioned E2E VC. Still, Alex doing an awesome job there, of course, bringing that community together. But the GTC community, which is a developer community, is so much different. But especially, I remember, what was it, 2015 or something, when I went to my first GTC. Yeah, I think so. There was this organization that. A startup who had mounted a couple of like simple consumer grade webcams in front of the entrance of the keynote. What is it? The whole
venue.
At the venue. And what they did is afterwards, in a startup theater where every startup has the ability to promote themselves, a little bit like TED Talk style, for 50 minutes, they said, pick any presenter at GTC. You can just browse in the app and pick it, and we'll guarantee you, and remember, this is 2015, within 2 or 3 seconds, we can identify this individual, when exactly this individual walked into the room, and which entrance he used. So it was facial recognition already in 2015. And even further, because they also had the huge data set of all the images of Hollywood celebrities. But of course, Hollywood celebrities, I think they used the example of The Hobbit, where some characters have a lot of fake parts on their face. And still, that network that they trained was still able to detect these individuals within a couple of seconds. The year following up, on 2016, this startup was no longer didn't no longer exist. It was what is it? I'm not sure whether acquired is the right name, but some intelligence agency, governmental intelligence agency, they embraced them. So No, but it's so cool to see those kind of technologies so early, and that's really what makes it a great experience to work at Nvidia. Although it's sometimes challenging from time to time. But
Yeah, and I can imagine that your hardware is being used for things that you didn't even think about that were possible. So that customers can really surprise you. But look what we built.
that's really true. That's I mean. Sometimes, and especially we, together with other partners, we organize like executive briefing center trips, EBC trips, when we fly them into to the Bay Area. We go to some partner EBCs, and also they come to Nvidia. And usually the people they walk out after such an EBC, and they say, "I never realized that you are." To some extent, you are the center of artificial intelligence. You're right in the center, right? You're in that what's it called? Like the within the tornado, the really center. I think
the eye of this tornado.
Yeah, the eye of the tornado. Yeah, I was thinking about ground zero, but that's a different meaning these days.
Yeah,
Right? So,
no. Yeah. The other analogy I've heard about Nvidia is that it's like AI is like a gold rush, and Nvidia are the ones giving out the shovels.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's you guys are definitely the kind of epicenter of what's going on, because without vGPUs, we there wouldn't be any AI. So, it's really kind of I'm sure it's very cool to kind of, as you said, have those goosebumps every so often and go, wow, I actually work for this company.
Yeah, but exactly what you said, James. It's that shuffle example, and I've heard it before, but it also means that we did not invent AI, although right. So in AI found us.
Yes.
So no, but I know there maybe sometimes also colleagues are a little bit. I don't know whether arrogancy is the right way to describe it, but that's the easiest way, maybe. We are the epicenter of AI, and AI would not exist if it was not for us. That's not true. And we also need to be fair about that. If you look at, I mentioned AlexNet, for example, it wasn't us who suggested to use a GPU in order to do that object detection. It was someone else who did. And then we said, hey, that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Can we offer you a contract, right? So, and as I said at the beginning also, where we focused initially on those gamers, and all of a sudden we realized that these designers, that the whole Hollywood industry for computer-generated imagery was using those GPUs, and we thought, hey, hold on, right? So, and of course, this with every company, but I think it's really important also to emphasize the fact that, it's of course you create your own waves, but then again, it needs a complete ecosystem to make it happen. I like to be humble about that fact that we are a huge part of it, and certainly an accelerator. But look at OpenAI, for example. I think in 2016 they were one of the first that acquired those DGX1s, those purpose-built appliances. But what is it? Heavy lifting, the majority of the research that have been done, the transformer engines, and of course working closely together with us, that also the hardware is optimized with that we have on the dies itself, on the chips itself. We design everything around for that particular use case for those large language models. So we need them, and they need us, at minimum 50-50. As I said, a humbling experience, but certainly a cool thing to be part of.
Yeah, I can imagine it sometimes feels like drinking from a fire hose, because every day, what you say, if you're a day off, you have to do the trainee program again. Every day there are new possibilities, new ideas, new use cases that are popping up.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you wanted to say something, James?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, when we first started our podcast, we had a news section, and we actually dropped it because there was it was pointless, because we're a monthly podcast. There was so much coming out so quickly with AI. It was just like, there was no point to it. There's other ways of if you want that news, because there is just so much going on with AI. So I can understand that kind of, if you do miss a day, things can change quickly, and we just kind of concentrated on what our guest was for the show, because the news would just become so irrelevant because it was already yesterday's news by the time we were reporting it. So.
Well, yeah, and also, right, before we started the recording, we spoke about a podcast that together with a couple of community friends I was running, and the whole idea around that podcast and that platform was basically to to scrape all the information on a particular domain, in this case end user computing, to scrape it and to create a customized timeline, so like a LinkedIn kind of solution where everything around end user computing that was relevant to you as an individual would come together. But and ideally, of course, use some AI for that scraping as well, right? But it sounds really easy. You can describe it in a couple of sentences, but build it is something different.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's the thing with AI is, like, it's a tool at the end of the day. It's people's imaginations and brains that is powering all the different things that are being done around the world, and I think that's really important because there is that human element to it, because it's what you can tell the machine you want to do. So human creativity is core to what's happening with all of these various different AI offerings.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true, right? And then especially in if you look at deep learning when it started, or the not necessarily deep learning, but the neural network that got some traction due to deep learning. But if you look at a neural network, basically what we do is we mimic the human brain, right? Where we have the neurons and the connections between the neurons. And I always refer to training a neural network the similar way as we train our little kids, right? The first little books that you would provide to kids is like just one image with a word on a single page, like this is a house, this is a key, this is a car, etc., right? So, and if you show it like a basketball and a tennis ball, and all of a sudden you show that same kid a baseball, and that same kid will think, hey, this is all of a sudden, it's still the same shape, but now it's white instead of orange or yellow. But chances are that this is also a ball, right? So, and this is the same way that we did with deep learning. We trained on all those images, for example, like this is a cat, this is a dog, right? And eventually you will get to a point where the model says, like, well, this cat that I've never seen before, 90% I'm sure this is a cat, and 70% this is a dog. So let's go for cat. And now, of course, with generative AI, it becomes a complete different ball game, because now all of a sudden we're generating new content instead of learning from content. We're generating artificial content, which makes it even more the possibilities to apply that creativity for human beings to apply in that domain. Well, you could say, it's easy to say the sky is the limit, but there's not really a limit to its potential. Energy, maybe, but
and availability.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There is some. You need to have access to it, right?
Exactly, and that was one of the things that I was wondering, because I'm more in the AI cloud bit, the Microsoft part of the cloud that's cloud based, but there are also a lot of private AIs initiatives. What do you see most asked to you to participate in cloud based things, or more the private?
So cloud is of course awesome when if you are a small startup, you don't have the capital invest or you don't even allow yourself the time to build something like a private AI, a private cloud for yourself. It's really easy, of course, just to consume those resources provided by one of the hyperscalers, or maybe by one of the local cloud service providers. If you're more into, I don't know, some sovereign AI solutions, and you don't want to use the big hyperscalers, and you want to make sure that you can always knock on the door and walk into a data center, for example, that you're really 100% certain that the data is actually in that facility. It's easy to start off that way, right? And this is what we see all the time. And some organizations especially when it's more like a consumer style solution. For example, the AI apps that you're running on your phone, many of them are just being catered out of one of those big data centers. But especially look at healthcare, for example, where they use AI for medical imaging, for example. That can become a little bit tricky. At least you have a difficult conversation with the security officer. And there's rules and regulations applied there. So, but again, you can still prototype or develop a solution based on cloud solutions, public cloud solutions, and at the minute when you have struck gold, just to use the analogy with the finding your gold with the shovels, you go on-prem. And also, let's not forget, right, especially for organizations that have been around for many years, that exactly know how to operate their own data center and to make sure that the network fabric is what they need. The the storage is performing the way they want. All of a sudden, they get a complete new workload, whether that's for training or for inferencing. All of a sudden, they need to be in contact with a new set of end users or colleagues, basically, but end users within the organization. And they need to come up with new questions to identify what the actual workload will be. And make no mistake, these colleagues, these end users, data scientists, AI practitioners, whatever we like to call them, that's in a good way, right? But a different breed of colleagues, a different breed of people. They are very, very, very skilled and technical. But the conversations that you would have with, I don't know, the owner of an application within the hospital, like take Epic, for example, or well, we in the Netherlands, we know Hicks a lot. But if you talk to one of the application owners, you know how to drive such a conversation on a functional level. But if you talk to a data scientist, all of a sudden it's a completely different conversation, and it's challenging to find out what kind of like resources would you need. And in essence, and I've seen this on many occasions, if you ask them like, hey, what kind of resources do you need? Yeah, supercomputer. Okay.
Yes, please. Two if possible.
Yeah, exactly. Always ask for two and get one, right? So again, that's how we trained our kids. Or no, but no. So that what is it? It makes it sometimes difficult for those organizations that have been around for a longer time to really be agile and to offer an environment, the accelerated compute environment, to a data scientist within the organization in a timely fashion. So for such a researcher, it's easier to, sometimes this really happens, and I've seen this on many occasions. They just go to the local store, buy a workstation, put a couple of consumer-grade GPUs in it, and start off. But yeah, at a certain point again, right, they still need to connect to the data that resides in the data center, and then you come into all these loopholes. So yeah, it's we just to answer your question. Sorry for the lengthy answer, but it is both. But we see a lot of organizations starting in public cloud and then come back to their own private AI. And luckily these days, again, within that ecosystem, whether that's an OEM or an ISV, you can build that stack according to your wishes. Any way you want it. There's a lot of flexibility in that open platform stack to serve AI workloads. So it is luckily these days much easier, right? With all the containerization solutions, the various types of Kubernetes, for example. That's definitely the way forward.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. Starting off in the cloud, and once you struck gold, go to private or stay in public if that suits your application.
Yeah, as I said, right, a lot of like consumer style applications. I know, well, we have a couple of colleagues who are always playing around with every picture that you take from you would see that very same picture in a completely different setting. Usually what is it? It ignites some laughter, but those apps, of course, it's all running somewhere in the cloud in order to make sure that the latency is minimized and you have a good quality of service in terms of right? When you want to, I don't know, you take a picture and you want to remove the background, or all the AI applications that are already embedded in mobile platforms these days, whether that's with the iPhone, the Apple iPhone, or with Android type mobiles. You need that rapid replies from those apps, right? So and a lot of those are also fully optimized to run on the device itself these days.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, and how are you using AI internally? Because you got all the use cases spelled out for you. You got a lot of good ideas, so I can imagine you can be super efficient.
Yes, yes and no, of course, right? So, no, and many. When I explained the focus of the team, there's one solution called Nvidia Omniverse, and Omniverse is a platform, a developer platform for simulation and digital twins and 3D collaboration, based on OpenUSD, Universal Screen Description from Pixar. And basically what we used, or let me maybe rewind, right? So if you look at the autonomous car and robotics, you need to train robots, right? We have a platform called Isaac Sim, and this is a virtualized platform where you can train robots. So sometimes when you go to IKEA, you see a robot like, I don't know, used with a chair, just to demonstrate how often you can sit and stand up from the chair and it's not wearing out, something like that. But in order to train that robot to make sure that it exactly is doing what it's supposed to do, or take a robot that is sorting garbage, for example, you need to train that robot that how much pressure does this robot needs to use in order to pick up a can, or to put out to take out a napkin or a branch or a leaf. I don't know what you want to sort on a conveyor belt. You need to train that. So you can build a shitload of robots and just train it and adjust it and retrain, etc., until you're satisfied. Or you can do this in a virtualized environment, because then you can scale, basically to the limits of the resources that you have available. So this is why we designed the Isaac Sim platform, where you can do this at scale and you can train those robots. And of course, it's all fun and games if you look at such a video where you see thousands of robots picking up a little cube. But the virtual world where this robot is operating in needs to be the same or act the same as the world that we live in, right? It needs to obey the laws of physics. Gravity needs to be applied. But also you need to understand, like, what's the friction on different materials. So you need to have materials in that virtual world as well. So this is how eventually, because we needed this, not just only for robots, but also to train cars, because you can do, of course, physical missions with a car, drive it around in, I don't know, the Bay Area, or maybe in Stuttgart, or maybe near Munich, just to name a couple of places where they happen to create cars, or maybe somewhere in Sweden or whatever we like to go to. But you train them in a certain scenario. But you, of course, if we as human beings with the great brain that we have, we can always adapt to any scenario, right? Or we can also understand that when someone wearing a T-shirt with a stop sign on it and all of a sudden steps on the road, we know, like, okay, this is not a stop sign, right? But a car, we saw those videos recently where someone was just annoying their neighbor by just pointing out their own stop sign.
Like, this is one of my Gerton's very much aware, and most people who've listened to this podcast, well, I have no faith in autonomous cars at this moment in time. I have seen so many videos and where the car has basically tried to kill the person, and so I'm quite happy driving my own car at the moment, and I think I can react probably to, as you said, our brain, we can react to every scenario and know as with anything to do with cars, it's never really, it is your own, how you react, but you don't know how the other person's going to react.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's going to get interesting, because we've all seen it. People on roads do things where we go, that's completely crazy. That defies logic why you would do that. If it's someone like overtaking 6 cars and potentially about to be plowed into a truck from the other side of the road or something like that. So I think we're still quite a few years away from where we have kind of mass adoption of automated driving.
Then again, if you look at San Francisco, for example, where they have the Waymo taxis, they're completely autonomously, right? There's no driver in it. There's no human that can interfere. But then again, that was the very same taxi. What was it in January? Where
T-shirt with the stop sign. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So there were also a couple of colleagues of mine sitting in such a taxi, and all of a sudden, there in the middle of the night, there was this blinking orange arrow instead of like a normal traffic light, and all of a sudden, the car was, I don't know what to do, because it tells me that after orange, red comes, but there is no red stop sign. So now what? So
it's just a roadwork sign with flashing.
Yeah, and this was the error, but eventually you can override it, etc. But and the point that I was heading to is we developed also this virtual world to train all those cars in each and every scenario, right? With snow, or maybe there's a roadworks, and all of a sudden the white lines are yellow, or at least I know in the US, yellow is pretty common on the middle of the street. Not so much in Europe, although in the UK, and Ireland, of course.
Well, no, we're mainly white. So
okay. But it's okay. Yeah, it's I don't know. Usually, I sit in the back of a cab when I'm in the UK or in Ireland, but not paying much attention. But we developed basically that platform in order to facilitate that autonomous driving. So Nvidia is definitely using AI technology to solve our own problems, whether that's with climate change, with the Earth 2 project, whether that's, and again, I've listened to our founder and CEO Jensen Huang on SIGGRAPH, where he also mentioned that we are using AI to help our designers to design the next generation of GPUs. How exactly? I don't know how to do it on a manual way, so not even with AI. But I can for sure, of course, if you put all the designs of all your previous generations into maybe a vector database, and put it in a rack, and you can question it and use that information to design the next generation, or to optimize that next generation. Yeah, for sure that will work, but not really my specialty.
Yeah, no, but taking it back down to your role, like are you utilizing AI on a daily basis, like for productivity, or how does it kind of take part? How is it part of your daily work?
Yeah. So for those listeners that only tune in only for audio, so I'm pretty gray and old. So for me, it's hard to adapt. No, that's just a lame excuse, but I definitely use it, right? But more in a consumable method, like Copilot, for example. And Copilot, based on the work of OpenAI, it's an amazing tool, right? So sometimes, I can, right, I can be in meetings and sessions like 25 hours a day. So sometimes you miss out on sessions, and it's easy to rewatch them and speed them up 1.5 times to save some time. But every once in a while, and it all needs to build up trust and confidence, of course, I just say to a Copilot, like, summarize this meeting for me. Yeah. And the first couple of times you are like, hey, I'm going to watch the meeting, and then I'm going to check whether the summarization from Copilot works. And it's at least that 3 times when I was convinced, okay, it's doing a good job, it was spot on. So nowadays I just use that Copilot. But also sometimes, like, sometimes you have these lengthy emails where you think like, shit, I don't know whether it's the right tone, the right pitch. I just let Copilot adjust it, and you reread it, and you think like, that's great, right? A good writer. But also sometimes you have these lengthy email threads, which you do not want to go through all the way down, because it will take you like 20 minutes.
In the show notes, so people can check it out, because that background's cool, because I don't see the kind of the edging that you see with some green screens or just some other generated background. So that's cool.
Yeah, maybe a little bit like this now, but
a little bit. Yeah, it's fine. It's pretty good.
It's way better than showing the real background.
Fair enough. That's good.
Yeah.
We were talking about how you can use AI in your own role, and it's more like on the consumer based. But do you use AI in your business tooling, for example, workflows, or if there's a question from a customer that it's already automatically answered, something like that? Or is it more on the consumer based and helping enterprises develop AI for them?
Well, yeah. So Nvidia is maybe a little bit of a different organization compared to other vendors tapping into this software-defined world. Although Nvidia was already building software, we have like more than 450 plus software solutions, but the majority is all like an SDK. So I always refer to it like Nvidia is producing all kinds of Lego bricks, and we provide the documentation like, hey, you can build a house, a boat, a car, or whatever with it, but we're not telling you how to do it. We're just providing this. So it's usually, and this is also why I mentioned GTC focusing on developers, because it's tools that a developer can use to build an end product. So with that, the Nvidia Broadcast, that tool that I just mentioned, or Omniverse that I mentioned, those are usually tools that we built internally for a particular use case, but not necessarily as a product that we would sell as a ready-to-use, like install, configure, and run application, right? It's always towards a developer that can use it and build with other Lego bricks, not necessarily from Nvidia, but maybe also from other ISVs, and build that entire end solution. So within Nvidia, we're sometimes a little bit, traditional. There's maybe one, I don't know whether it's a fun fact, but one thing that we do at Nvidia, because everything is so, constantly changing. And as I said, we don't work with hierarchy and like, hey, this is not my scope of work. And we work with virtual teams of volunteers to get the mission done. This is also really challenging to manage. So what we do is every employee, so 29,000 colleagues, approximately, every other week you send out an email, top 5 things, which you send out to the, like 80% of the organization. There's just an email address where you send it to, and everyone receives that email. So on a daily basis, I get like 300, 400, I don't know. I never counted them, like a couple of hundred emails with the header top 5 things. And then we have a fixed header for every, like thing you focus on, region, etc., etc. And basically what you do in the top 5 things is, in essence, the top 5 things you're working on, which customer, which project, etc., etc. So it sounds really crazy to build up this entire Outlook database of this information, but we always refer to it as a little bit as IoT probes that are constantly sending out information. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. So if I would have an appointment with or a meeting with customer X tomorrow, I would just go to that folder, top 5 things, and just search for everything around customer X, and I would be completely up to date. Who's working on what, etc. What's the status? So, or who to reach out to really be on top of the latest situation. So this is we're a little bit of a traditional organization in terms of Outlook, but luckily all this information is all fed into again an AI solution because no one can digest all those emails. Although,
of course,
really
No,
surprised.
I was. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, I presume you've got some sort of AI solution where all of this is sucked into, because it's data that's really useful and for use by Nvidia. So, of course, it would make sense to take your own data and plug it into an AI model.
Yeah. So that's one of the examples. But yeah, as you know, right, with every organization, the priority is with the end customer. that eventually is going to make a purchase, which also allows us all to earn a living. So there's the priority, of course. But you see more and more like these kind of solutions, similar as to facial recognition. So we have these traditional employee badges to get into the building. Like, I don't know for how many years already, we also put up our own facial recognition cameras, which are pretty common these days, right? But in the older days, I mean, you can look at we have those stores where there's no cash register anymore. You just pick out your stuff, and the minute you walk out the door, immediately on your phone you would see what did you grab, and it's being deducted from your not your savings account, your cashings account, or whatever account or your credit card that you associated with that application, of course. But now, so we see more and more of this being applied, and but it's all, as I said, the most important part there is it's all Lego bricks. So you need an enthusiast to put it together internally, and also to maintain it afterwards.
Yeah, I really like that way that you're stating that, Nvidia provides the bricks, and then people and companies take them and then they go off and do them. But yeah, exactly, it's a really good analogy of what you guys do. So that has been a really great conversation. Gurjan, anything else you want to say to wrap us up?
No, thanks, Jits, for taking time out of your day, your free time even, to talk to us and give us a little bit of insight in how Nvidia is doing things, and how you, as Nvidia employee and your team, are looking at the world of AI and everything that's running around in it. And we hope to pick your brain another moment, perhaps sometime next year, to see what happens in the year to come, because I had a question ready saying, okay, how do you think the future is going to look for
physical AI?
Yeah. That's
really?
Yeah, that's the next thing.
Well, for us, that's the next thing, right? So if you want to know more about physical AI and Project Groot, where it's all about robots, training robots, and
also the robots that were on stage with Jensen.
During GTC, right? You saw those.
That was robots, cool.
Those Disney robots.
Yeah.
No, exactly. But no, we really think about. We are sure where it's digital humans, agents with avatars, lifelike avatars. But the next step is already also that physical AI. So how do you apply AI with robots? We all know the little dog, or little from Boston Dynamics. We for sure we can have a follow-up conversation we operate at speed of light, so I don't know whether it's next year, but
perhaps tomorrow
robotics.
Already. Yeah.
Physical AI. Yeah.
So cool. So just to wrap it up, so physical AI is the next big thing. Really looking forward to it. We hope to have you again as a guest on our show, Jits, and thanks again. Thanks everyone for listening, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.